Give me 9 minutes and I'm gonna save your next land deal. I'm gonna give you the exact scripts my team used, word for word. Not theory, not frameworks, the literal words we say on the phone that locked up over $872,000 in profit in a single week. If you're getting ghosted after sending offers, it's not your price. It's that you failed to frame the conversation in the first 60 seconds. You jumped straight into the numbers before you earned the right to make an offer. And the seller hung up. They deleted your email and moved on to someone who made them feel heard. It was interesting, last week, I was talking with my acquisition manager and we were offering on a deal, and actually a broker was involved, and we had great rapport with the broker. And we gave the offer, and all of a sudden the broker didn't want to return our calls, right? And why was that? It was lower than what he was expecting. And that, I believe, was a result of my acquisition manager not properly framing the call. We found out later on that they got under contract for a price 10% higher than what we offered. 10% is nothing. It doesn't kill a deal or make a deal. And we failed because we did not frame properly to make $250,000 on this deal. It's a beautiful subdivide because we didn't frame correctly. So I'm gonna save you from making that same exact mistake in this video. So if you don't know me, my name is Clay Hepler, and I'm gonna break down the exact 2-call system we run at Landman Development. Call number 1 is how our lead manager qualifies and frames the seller. Call number 2, how our acquisition manager builds emotional weight in closes. And I'm gonna give away both scripts at the end of the video. And there's one specific sentence that we say in the first 60 seconds of every call that increases our show rate on the second call by over 30%. And I will give you the exact words. But first, let me explain why your current approach is costing you thousands of dollars every single month. Now here's what happens in 90% of land investors' calls right now. A seller picks up the phone and the investor says something like, hey, I saw your property, what are you looking to get for it? Like they race to price. Within 30 seconds of the conversation, or your acquisition manager does the same thing and just blows up the conversation because they think that the seller is asking too much. When they don't build any rapport, they have no qualification, they have no understanding of why the seller is selling. They just focus on a number. Then the investor sends the offer over, the seller looks at it, and they never respond. The investor blames the market, they blame competition, then they go and spend a bunch of money, try to figure out how they can get better at it. But the real problem is they never earn the right to make the offer. In our business, the lead manager never discusses price as a destination. We discuss price as information. And the first call is never about closing. It's about positioning ourselves as the trusted advisor the seller actually wants to work with. Our lead manager opens up every call with the agenda, right? So agenda is super important. Now here are the exact words. Great, so excited for the call. We only have about 10 to 15 minutes. I'm gonna ask you a few questions about the property, and it's totally fine if you don't have the answers right now. Once I get what I need, I'll send it over to my team so we can put together a custom offer for you, assuming it looks like we are a good fit. Does that sound good? The next thing they say is they flip the script. Flip the script. This is the opposite of what most investors do. And they say, just so you know, we do not buy every property we talk about. I will need to ask a few questions to see if this one makes sense for us. Some may be a little personal. Is that okay? Agenda, flip the script, and then we do pacing. What's gonna happen in the call? So at the end of the call, one of two things will happen. Either we decide we're gonna move forward or we do not. Either way is totally fine. If at any point it does not feel like it's a good fit for you, just say no, and I will do the same on my end. Now this frame shows the agenda, it flips the script, a conversation that most sellers are not having, and then we pace what the end of the call looks like. It sets the timeline, it establishes professionalism, and it gets permission from them and us that if it does not work for them or it does not work for us, no big deal. Now paradoxically, this makes the seller more likely to stay, more likely to be honest, because they do not feel trapped. Now after we frame it, we move it into 3 categories of questions, but I want to tell you why this is so important, right? This is called TARP. This is timeline, agenda, result of the call, and permission to say no. Why is this so important, right? The opening of the call sets the tone for your company. Today's day and age, we all kind of know this, no one trusts anyone, right? Whether it's the political issues that we're dealing with, whether it's the scams that are going on, we all know that we're dealing with sellers who most of the time are old, over the age of 50. They don't trust anything. And so when we approach them with professionalism and we give them a way out, they're not getting set up in a conversation with a used car salesman. It becomes a consultative approach. What I tell my sales guys every day is we are here to serve, not sell. By serving the seller, we give them the best options, and what it does is it creates a conversation with the seller that the sellers can be more open to us. It's amazing the difference between that type of orientation, serving versus selling, does to your acquisition managers. I'll give you an example of why it's so powerful. So imagine you are having a dinner with a prospective business partner, and the business partner is there with you, and before you hear about this business partner, that someone tells you that he is looking or she is looking to screw you, right? What would be your orientation through that meeting? You'd be closed. You'd be answering questions in a way that is not conclusive. You would be pretty against trying to do business with this person, versus if someone told you that this person is looking for your best interest. How would you approach it? You'd try to find collaboration. You try to figure out a way that you and this prospective business partner could do business together. It's just that one switch. And we have the power to do that. Our salespeople do with words, which is why we always talk about, hey, how do we serve the seller, not sell? And in the era that we live in, where trust is at an all-time low, wholesalers are destroying the reputation of professional organizations like ours. We have to take that orientation, and it changes the trajectory of the sales conversation. So after we frame TARP, right, and we focus on serving, not selling, we move into 3 categories of questions. The first category is property questions. First, we do road access, we do utilities, septic, survey, HOA, structure, taxes, all that stuff. Then we go into ownership questions, liens, mortgage, other people on the deed, anyone else who needs to sign off on the deal. Then we go into personal questions. When was the person last at the property? Have they gotten other offers? Why have they not taken them? Why are we having this conversation? The person questions are where the real gold is in this script. What we're listening for 4 things. We're listening for death, divorce, debt, and disinterest. Disinterest is the most important. We're not trying to take advantage of anyone by focusing on this, but we're looking for something that we can focus on in order to solve a problem, right? When you think about this, you're like, oh, these guys are trying to be scumbags, right? But it's actually the opposite of it, right? When you're visiting a doctor, a professional, right? Every single time that someone goes to a doctor, there's pain, right? There's true pain, right? So the doctor is going to ask you a series of questions to figure out, where is the pain? Is it a headache? Is it in your elbow? Is it in your arm? But you could say, well, the doctor, every time you go to see a doctor, it's always negative. It's like, well, this person he's just trying to find negative things so he can prescribe some pills to you or solutions. You would hope that a doctor wouldn't do this. And we're in the same way, we as professionals, serving over selling, we ask these questions to a seller. Now, in this case, what we're looking for is motivation. And we use tactical empathy, mirroring the seller's last 2 to 3 words and labeling their emotions to get down and understand where is the real problem here so we can actually serve them and figure out a solution to their problems. So you can pull out the real story without triggering defensiveness or making them feel like you're trying to take advantage of them. After you get through all this, you get the question, you get to the price, right? Price is incredibly important, and this is where most lead managers actually choke. So what we say is, based on what you shared, you have a pretty good picture of your property. If the highest price is your number 1 priority, we're probably not your best option. People who chose to work with us value speed and convenience more than squeezing every last dollar. Now, I'm not asking you to give the property away. We are investors. We need to purchase these properties at a discount. But if you want full retail, an agent is probably better. So we would first drop that frame. Again, we're talking about frames. So we frame it like, hey, we are not full retail, right? We let them figure that out. And then after we do that frame, we go into price ask. Because if I just say, how much you want to get out of the property, they're going to be defensive, right? Because negotiating 101 is you never give the person your price, right? That's negotiation 101, especially with the demographic that we're dealing with most of the time. Like I said, cards close to their chest, right? But when we frame it, they might say to us, okay, Clay, I'm not interested in working with you, right? In this case, our lead manager. So then we eliminate the people that are the tire kickers, right? Because we don't want non-motivated sellers on our schedule, on the appointment schedule of our acquisition manager. And it also makes the price ask easier, right? So we say, hey, we're not going to pay full retail. That also frames, they might say, okay, well, I'm not going to ask for 100. I might ask for 85 because I'm interested in selling this thing and I know I'm not going to get full retail, right? This key is the pre-framing. It really changes the dynamic of the conversation, and they know that we're being truthful, we're being honest, and so they should be truthful with us because we are positioning ourselves honestly. We're not trying to just lowball them, right? We're not the solution for everyone, so why would we pretend like we are the solution for everyone? This creates trust, creates honesty, and we're trying to be honest throughout the transaction. Again, don't forget, serving, not selling. That's how you truly get alpha. That's how you truly get better returns. That's how you convert more sellers, because you focus on their motivation, which we'll talk about in a second. So our lead manager gets the price ask through this frame, and then we dig to figure out where the price ask is. They'll say, oh, you tell me, oh, you tell me. The price ask is improved by a little thing that we call the because clause. So there was a study, I don't know who did it, years ago, that if you use the word because, I'm asking this because, I'm doing this because, your probability of getting compliance goes up significantly, right? So I'm asking this because I'm trying to get you the most money possible in the quickest amount of time, has increased our ability to get a price out of the seller by 30 to 40%. It's pretty incredible. So we do the frame, we do the price ask, and then if they give us resistance, we'll do the because clause, and usually at that point, they'll give us the price. If you're thinking, hey man, I need these scripts in front of me on my next call, I put the lead manager script and the acquisition manager script inside the Landman community on School. They are completely free and they're pinned in the resources section. The link is in the description down below. We'll see you on the inside. All right, so now we have the price. We set the booking with our acquisition manager. I'm gonna jump to something that you might be thinking, right? So we have a 2-call close, right? So we have our LM, who books a call for our AM. But in our business, we also have a cold caller. We have cold callers in our business, and many of our clients do as well. So you're saying, hey, Clay, you have a 2-call close here. Actually, technically, we have a 3-call. We have a 3-call close, right? Do the sellers get angry about that, right? Well, the reality is we are dictating the process with the seller. The seller is not dictating it with us. And provided you have good handoffs between 1 to 3 people, you're okay, right? Let's just give an example if you're buying a car, right? You got your cold callers, right? You have the person that, your front desk person. They might put you in contact with a greeter. The greeter then assigns you to a salesperson, right? They remember your name. This happens in multiple different businesses. The success of each of these comes down to how well you can hand off responsibilities per person, right? And so we do a 3-call close when it comes to callers. Number one, because we have a 30% to 40% qualification rate. I'll explain why this is important, between our lead managers and our acquisition managers. So what that means is if I have a cold caller and I put in 10 leads to my lead manager, only 30 to 40% are actually qualified. So you mean to tell me that the highest paid person in my business, technically, the acquisition manager, is spending his time, 70 to 60% of his time, on leads that have no ability to close? Doesn't make sense, right? So that's why we have a lead manager, and that's why we do the 3-call close. In addition, AM, their biggest revenue producing activity is offer calls, right? But we know that when a lead comes in, the increase of close rate, of show rate, of cash conversion cycle comes down to speed to lead. So people that do have a 2-call close are telling me is they want their AM to decrease the biggest thing that we have, which is our ability to call a seller quickly and qualify them, because they're on an offer call. And what's more important, offer call or an intake call? They're equally as important in different buckets. So for LM, the new uncontacted leads are the most important. For AM, the offer calls are the most important. So then you're going to give an AM a job that has 2 most important things. He doesn't know how to decide which one is between the most important things. And look, it's like a plumber having to take service calls, right? Having to sell service calls, right? I have to sell the service calls and I got to do the service calls. It's like, no, a plumber should just do the service calls. That's what they're getting paid for. That's their highest dollar per hour task. So everything should be around the AM getting offers, which is why we like to do the 3-call close. So when the LM puts the property on the AM schedule, what the AM is going to do is they're going to reopen the story, all the context that we talked about earlier from the LM, and we don't assume anything. So we say, hey, this is what we've heard. Want to make sure that we're not assuming anything. We re-ask about history, the dream, family options. We go a mile deep on what the seller actually shared to make sure that the seller wasn't lying, or maybe they didn't leave everything on the table. We want to know exactly what is going on here. So when the lead manager books a appointment on the AM schedule, the appointment looks a lot like rehatching what these guys talked about. What is the most important thing to the seller? We don't assume anything, but we don't re-ask questions, right? So we recount the history, the dream, family options. We go a mile deep on what they already shared, but we don't re-ask the same questions because they don't like that. And a key principle in the appointment is withhold the offer as long as possible. Why? Because the power in the appointment is the offer. As soon as you give the offer, you're done, right? It's like, imagine you're getting dinner, you're at this beautiful restaurant, and you order your dinner, and the dinner comes out in 2 minutes. The evening is over. Once you have the dinner, you're there for dinner, the evening is over, right? The offer is the entree, right? But you need the appetizers, you need the cocktails, and that's what sets up the entree, right? The conversation. So we do not give the offer. We say 10 minutes until offer. You do not earn the right at my org or people in the deal engine to give an offer until you have had at least 10 minutes on the call, period. Why? Because you need to go deep. You need to figure out what the motivation of the seller really is. And what we do that is we do that through past, present, and future questioning. So what happened when you bought it? What's going on now? What are you going to do with the money, right? Pretty simple. Again, in the link, there's in the description down below, you can download the actual offer sheet literally while you're watching this YouTube video, so you can go through it and you can see, hey, past, present, future, how we actually frame it and anchor it. But that is the script. So we rehatch, we set the agenda, TARP, like we were talking about earlier, and then we go past, present, future questioning. And then we transition to deal killers. This is the structure. And then we get into the offer, right? So TARP, past, present, future, deal killers, offer. And that call at the beginning, this should be at least 10 minutes. I like to see it longer, 15 minutes. Imagine wholesaling. I came from the wholesaling house flipping world. Guys would be in appointments for 30 minutes, an hour and a half, 2 hours at these houses. And we expect to pull out all the motivation of a seller on a phone call in 5 minutes. Doesn't seem like it tracks to me. So that's why at least 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the minimum. And then we get to the offer, and that's a negotiation, which we'll talk about here in a second. So by the time you get to the offer, when you go through past, present, and future, what are we doing? What's the vacation? What caused you to want to have a conversation, and what happened when you bought it? We have the anchor, past, present, future. We have our motivation. This is the motivation section. And then this is the objection, right? So these are important because once we understand the motivation and the objections that the seller could possibly have, our offer is a combination of the price plus the motivation plus objection handling. We can change price, I find, between 10 to 30% based on leveraging motivation and objection handling. Because if we can paint a picture that working with us is more secure, again, reference back in the trust section that I talked about earlier with TARP. If we can prove that we are the type of company that can have certainty, that is one that understands who they are, and we serve over sell, and we're going to get to the offer in a minute to show you how you can increase your close rate by 50 to 100%. If we have the motivation and the objection handling as a part of the offer, we're in a really, really good spot. So now let's transition to the offer, right? So we've talked past, present, future deal killers again, and we're going to go and transition to the offer right now. The way I think about an offer, so the way I think about offers, right? We have price, motivation, offers. There is a skill to offering and negotiation. This alone, I think it's worth an extra deal a month, maybe 2 deals a month. You got to make sure that you're understanding the best way to offer, but we have different offers, right? So in order of raising, we have our anchor, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of 60% of our MAU. Then we have first offer, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 to 80% of MAU. Then we have our MAU. Obviously, it's 100% of MAU. Then we have our DC plus seller FI, which can be 120 of MAU depending on the size of the deal, right? So anchor is investors. First offer is, okay, we'll come up, we'll bump up 10 to 20%. And then our MAU is, look, this is what we can pay with cash, right? So how we actually go through doing this in real time is we get through all this, we then pull the anchor, and then between each of these, we're using motivation plus objection handling to pull the seller up to these offers, right? What I see a lot of people mess up at this level is when they're actually offering, they will go from, let's just say in this case, I'm gonna do a really easy number, right? We're gonna go 60K. And then we'll say we'll go 75K here, and then we'll go 100K, this is for our offer, and then we're 120K seller FI, right? Okay, this will be really easy. So people go 60K, investors are paying between 60, whatever, 55 to 65K, 55 to 60K. And then they will, then the seller will be like, I would never do that, right? And they will then immediately say the next offer, the next number, right? And so it needs to be a conversation between each of these lines, right? So I'm always like, wait, why is someone better at negotiating than someone else? Like, what are they actually good at? What are the things that they do? It's the patience between the lines. It's the patience between the anchor, the first offer, the MAU, and the DC, and the seller finance. That's it. So for example, When it comes to your anchor, you say, hey, I can offer $60,000 for it, right? We're seeing other investors pay between $55,000 and $60,000. What would you say if another investor gave you an offer like that? And you shut up. And they laugh you off the phone. They're about to hang up, and that's when you offer. What would that number look like to you, knowing what investors are paying? What and how questions. We'll talk about that in a second. So the first offer, we go to 75K, right? And then we have obviously 100K, whatever, 120, right? So I'm not going to go right to 70K, 75K. I'm going to ask a question too. I'm going to pull out more motivation. I'm not going to throw the motivation bomb at this level. I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to try to go up to 100K eventually. We'll see how I do. But I'm going to get up to 75. I'll ask one or two questions. I will mirror, like I was talking about earlier. And then they'll say, maybe they're at 120. I don't know, maybe they're 110, right? And then you say, well, look, my underwriting team gave me authorization to offer 75K. Are you saying that there's no way that you would take an offer below X or at X? And you might even throw a number in here is, I'm at 75K. I always like to say, I feel like we're really close, right? I'm trying to collaborate, right? We'll go through my table analogy, right, in a second. But I like to always collaborate with the seller because I don't want to come all the way up to 100K. If let's say they're at 110, and I want to pull them down to 90. I feel happy at 90. So I need to do the dance to pull them down. That's a pretty big drop for a seller, not huge, but pretty big. So we're using what and how questions. We're pulling up their motivation at this level, right? The way that I've found to be more successful at this is to paint the picture again of the future, right? So I want you to imagine that you're in a conversation with the seller and you have a table. Most of the time, people are doing it's me, it's the seller, seller's here, and then you have buyer, right? And so what happens is buyer gives a number to the seller, seller gives the number back, buyer gives a counter, and it's just a back and forth, right? And so negotiations are done relationally. They're not done by beating each other to a pulp. No one likes that. People are just like, I'm going to hang up the phone on you. You're not in person. There's no psychological pressure like that. So what I like to do is I always like to frame it like we got a buyer here and we got the seller here, right? So the market is over here. This is the person that we need to focus on, right? So, in fact, it's not about us versus each other. It's about us versus the market value. It's about us versus other investors, right? And so when I'm in a conversation over here, I'm trying to get the seller down. I'm always saying, hey, look, we're really close. I know we can make this deal work, right? Serving over selling. You're physically thinking and visualizing you're on the same side of the table. Look, I'm on the same side of the table with you here. I'm trying to figure out how do we get this deal done, right? So you as the buyer versus the seller, very different things. And that's why when we're always thinking about we're collaborating. So that brings me to my next point, the last point, right? So say you cannot get this guy down. You can't get him down. That's when we come in with double close and seller finance, right? So when we go to double close and seller finance, we'll say, look, this is our cash offer. We can't get there. That's perfectly fine. A lot of times we cannot get there, right? I find like good closers, anywhere between 8 to 12% cash deals. Maybe that would be pretty solid. So for the double close and seller finance, that's when we can add an extra 50% close rate, 75% close rate, which is pretty insane. So getting really good at that, that's when you're really same side of the table and you're focusing on motivation. What brings you guys together? Look at this, little hands here. I got a little hand here. We're holding each other's hands. Gosh, that's so bad. Seller and buyer, we're holding each other's hands, right? Yay. Is we figure out what is something that works for both of us. We give them their price, our terms. They take our price, their terms. Quick sale. We do a higher price, flexibility, double close. And so you can see we can do 1, 2, 3 to solve the problem, which is we have an organization that acquires off-market land. We need a profit to pay for our mortgage, to go on the vacation that you always want to go on, to build a life that you want to go on. But the seller here, this is a trophy thing. This, whether it's a $20,000, $40,000, this can change their life. This is a huge decision. And so if you are always back and forth adversarial, that's why you're not closing as many deals. Seller, buyer, holding hands together, right? Figuring out what is the solution in the market is always the problem. That's when we bring up our double close and seller financing, which is a video for another day for sure. But that's how I think about the offering structure. We'll do motivation plus objection handling here. Mostly at this level, we're focusing on motivation and serving over selling. One other thing that I did not mention that I want to bring back to is our objection handling framework. Acknowledge, isolate, overcome, loop. This is how we handle objections at every level, right? So if they have a price issue, hey, look, I understand that we're far off on price. Would there be any other reasons why, besides the price, that we couldn't do business together? You overcome the objection by isolating it, and they say, no, there's no reason. Boom, loop. I pitch seller finance or double close. I don't trust you. Okay, so other than not trusting our company, would there be any other reason why you wouldn't feel comfortable moving forward with us today and getting this deal signed up? Acknowledge, isolate, overcome, loop. So if we were to get you a third-party title company to verify that we are a legitimate company, if we were to do X, Y, and Z, you'd be able and ready to move forward. Yes, got it. Okay, acknowledge, isolate, overcome, loop. We're good. So that is our framework. A little TM there. Acknowledge, isolate, overcome, loop, which is how we handle objections. So one thing that I do want to bring up before we wrap up is the deal killers. So a lot of times there are, you get a verbal yes, and you send the contract, there's silence, you get ghosted. You know, what happened, right? They might have talked to someone that you didn't talk to, a spouse, a sibling, an attorney, that person that never felt the emotional weight of the conversation. That's the person that kills it, right? Our lead manager in the script that we shared down below actually asked for this on call 1. You know, would there be anyone else upset if you didn't run this decision by them first? And our acquisition manager asked it as well. If we come to an agreement today, is there anyone else who needs to sign off before we can move forward? We never say, you know, who's the decision maker, because that sounds aggressive and that's like 1990s sales. We say, who else has input, right? And we make sure that person is on call 2, or before call 2, they get a sign off, right? That's a huge question that we make sure that we hammer into, which eliminates our biggest source of lost deals in general. So in summary, agenda set on every call, tactical empathy to extract real motivation, 2 call structure so we never rush the offer, past, present, future to build emotional weight, price pre-frame so sellers never feel ambushed, AIOL for objections, stakeholder isolation so no one kills the deal from the shadows. And by doing this, in 1 week, my team locked up over $872,000 in projected profit. Same leads that every other investor had access to. The difference was not better data, it was a better conversation and a better sales process. Right? The leads that you're throwing away right now are the same leads that you can make 6-7 figures on. You just need to learn how to close them better. Everyone's marketing to the same areas. Why is it that someone has a $50,000 business, a $500,000 business, or a $5 million a year business? It is the process that we talked about today, among other things, right? So here's what I want you to do right now. I want you to go grab the 2-call script inside the Landman Community and School. Link is down below. Both are pinned to the resources. There's thousands of investors that are already using them. And if you want to see the exact follow-up system that we use to make sure that no lead ever falls through the cracks after the call, click the video right here on the screen. I break down the 42 touch equation that guarantees that we squeeze every drop of profit from our lead funnel. That's the other half of this machine. I will see you in that video.